Salut tout le monde, je m'appelle Alex, and in a previous video on this channel I gave my opinions from my perspective as an advanced French learner on why I don't think that Duolingo is the right tool for the French learners amongst you, hopefully that's all of you, who are targeting long-term success at learning the language. For reference, there's a card right up here to that video, so go and check that out if you haven't already. And it divided opinion massively, to say the least. One thing that's been pointed out to me by both those of you who agree with me on Duolingo and those who disagree with me is that the Duolingo Stories feature is very good. So I thought, with all my experience learning the real French after having lived in France for a few years and having reached a high level in the French language, it would be a perfect time for me to go and check out Duolingo Stories for the first time and to give you my advice from my perspective on whether I think the Duolingo Stories feature could be a great resource for you fellow French learners. Everything you're going to see is my first time encountering the Duolingo Stories, and you'll be seeing live commentary of what's going through my head, what I find good, what I find bad, what I find generally interesting. And of course it goes without saying that all of it is just my opinion. So if you want to know what I think of Duolingo Stories so you can decide whether or not to pour some of your precious French study time into it, stick with me. And also stick around to the end because I've got a great bonus for those of you who want to learn more everyday French. Donc, si vous êtes prêts, allez, c'est parti. Okay, so I'm on the Duolingo Stories page and I see this set 1 and set 2, set 3, etc. all grayed out. I'm going to guess their difficulty as well as just more interesting, more diverse topics down below. So I guess I'm going to start with set 1. Let's see what comes up with. Bonjour. Okay, good start.
Jean est à la maison avec sa femme, Marion.
Jean est à la maison avec sa femme, Marion, la narratrice. I like that we're already getting vocabulary here just from the little annotations. That's quite useful as well. John is at home with his wife, Marion. Okay, it's usable. That's something we would definitely say in everyday French. Nothing about ducks quite yet. Salut, Marion, says Jean. Okay, so narratrice is just setting the scene, and now they're speaking. Salut, mon chéri. That's quite cute. Okay, so now they ask you a question. What does mon chéri mean? Okay, well, I know it's my darling. So they're trying to get you to know from the context. They're not assuming they've taught you it before, I suppose. It's good. It's very easy here. Où est mon livre d'anglais? Where is my English book?
Pardon?
Pardon? He doesn't understand. Pardon. In informal everyday speech, the French typically say comment, comment, which okay translates to how, but it's definitely how they would say sorry. What do you mean? What did you say?
J'ai un examen d'anglais à l'université.
Ah, okay. So I've got to fill the gap, so it's test my listening. What if I didn't hear it very well? Can I press this?
J'ai un examen d'anglais à l'université.
Okay, sweet. So she said, "J'ai un examen d'anglais," but let's see what happens if I pick the wrong answer. Okay, so do I lose a life or something? There's nothing here about lives, so I'm not sure. All right. Okay, so you do get all 3 goes. That's good.
Où est mon livre?
Où est mon livre? I like how she longs out that sound there for emphasis. That's really natural, so that's really cool.
Il est ici, sur la table, Marion.
Il est ici, sur la table, Marion. Now from him saying ici, I'm guessing that Jean is right by the table. He's right there, so you say here. It's like the difference between here and there in English is like ici and là in French. Ici, to be really specific, it will be where the person is, typically. But also in common everyday speech, the French use là a lot more than ici. So you could also say il est là, sur la table, Marion. So I'm guessing from this specificity that he's actually right next to the book, right next to the table.
Je suis fatiguée, Jean. Je travaille beaucoup.
Okay, so she's basically apologizing for not seeing it right in front of her face. Je suis fatiguée, Jean. Je travaille beaucoup. Click on the option meaning tired. I am fatigué. So it's literal translation of English to French. Grammar as well as vocabulary. Fatigué, fatigued. You can pretty much work that out.
Tu veux une tasse de café?
Tu veux une tasse de café? Yeah. Do you want a cup of coffee? I would typically hear tu veux un café. Tu veux un café. It's shorter and simpler and people will know what you mean. Perhaps this is something natives use, but I'm not quite sure. I'm not a coffee drinker myself. C'est pas ma tasse de thé, which is an expression that directly translates from English to French and works in French. Not my cup of tea.
Oui, merci.
Voilà.
Voila, when Jean hands her the cup.
Marion met du sucre dans sa tasse.
Elle boit son café.
Bark.
Berk. I guess that's the French equivalent of bleh. Yuck.
Quoi?
Quoi? John doesn't understand. Quoi? So even though you can say comment for excuse me, pardon, it's a bit softer. He's quite stunned here, so he goes with what? What?
C'est du sel.
That's quite funny. He's put salt in the coffee instead of sugar.
Marion, tu es très fatiguée.
Yes, she is, definitely. Marion was so tired that she dropped her cup while drinking coffee, put salt in her coffee instead of sugar, fell asleep while talking to Jean. There's nothing about falling asleep in this whole exchange, so I think this is a bit too easy. But perhaps being in step one, it's for beginners. Try and get you to pay attention to certain words. Yes, 22 XP. Awesome. This is why Duo is quite addictive, because it gives you these points and gives you a feeling of progress, which is why it's so addictive and so useful in the beginning. I really do like that. Gamifying it, that's what they call it. Okay, completed the story. Okay, so I get a star next to it, and now I guess I've got to complete all of these ones to get to set 2. So I like it. I like how it uses quite natural speech. The imaginary dialogue is quite convincing. It perhaps uses a bit too polite speech for the majority of people in that age bracket that I guess they're targeting. Pardon instead of comment, and she said fatigué twice, which is very plausible, of course, but the French actually have so many words for fatigué. They have cuit, fatigué, épuisé, claqué, crevé, all of which border on informal and maybe slang, but when you're at home with your partner you probably say something more extreme like that. So I think fatigué is a good one at this stage to get people used to the most common and simple way of saying tired. For sure, I think that's a good thing to know. It is just for beginners, I guess. There didn't seem to be any barrier to getting into stories. All right, let's take another one. Saturday night.
Samedi soir.
Samedi soir.
Camille parle avec son ami Baptiste au travail.
Camille parle avec son ami Baptiste au travail.
Salut Baptiste.
Salut Baptiste. Another one of these words in French where they don't pronounce all the letters. It's not Baptiste, it's Baptiste.
Tu fais quoi ce week-end?
Tu fais quoi ce week-end? Nice informal way of asking it. He's going to a concert on Saturday. And notice they don't say on Saturday in French, they say just samedi, and it's implied that it's this Saturday.
Le groupe s'appelle Les Sœurs.
Le groupe s'appelle Les Sœurs.
Tu veux venir au concert avec moi?
Again, nice informal way, putting basically the statement form and adding that upward inflection at the end to make it a question. Tu veux venir au concert avec moi? That's how we use it in everyday French all the time. I advise you to learn the easiest way of asking a question. Asking it to go to a concert on Saturday. Very French way of saying nice.
Tu fais quoi ce week-end?
He repeats the question. Or asks her what she's doing. She's not sure. Does she think it's a date? This can be quite awkward.
Ah non, je vais à un match de football.
Ah non, je vais à un match de football. Okay, nice. Also commonly say match de foot. Match de foot. Again, football. Probably the official term. but foot is just as well accepted. Okay, so he skipped ahead.
La fille avec la guitare. C'est Camille.
What? They've really got their imaginations running wild here. Why is Baptiste confused? He thinks Camille is actually playing in the band.
Après le concert, Baptiste parle avec Camille.
This is a really nice way of showing people that a lot of French sentences follow the same logical structure as English. It makes it easy to pick up. The grammar isn't that hard. It's showing you that that's possible. Apart from with the questions, we use do a lot in English, like do you, and the French don't have a word like that. But in here, like après le concert, Baptiste parle avec Camille. That's nice, straightforward. And then hein, H-E-I-N is like the way of saying ha, or a in this case, like a match de foot, a. They say hein, hein.
Surprise.
Surprise.
Tu joues très bien de la guitare.
Tu joues très bien de la guitare. Nice. I like this. And it's de la guitare, and it means the guitar, just because in this case, when you joues an instrument, you have to use de. It's the preposition here. So it's not some guitar, it's just you have to use de here. So de acts as a preposition. Don't worry about that too much, but de la guitare. Always remember if you're playing an instrument, it's jouer de la guitare. Nice, so I've done 2 now, so I guess I want to get onto set 2 and just talk about briefly just to see how what difference it is. So I'm just going to sort of complete set 1 and then come back to you. Okay, so I finished set 1. It took me about 15 minutes. I'm sure for some of you it might take a little longer, but I wanted to zip through them. So on to set 2. Let's pick what one interests me most. I like traveling, so let's call it the perfect vacation. I think these definitely getting harder throughout the set as well.
Véronique et Nicolas sont dans un parc national.
Okay,
Voici l'hôtel.
listen to that again.
Voici l'hôtel.
Voici l'hôtel. I like how they give things which sound very close and would actually fit as well. Ici est l'hôtel. Voici l'hôtel is what she said. Voici. So here we see a second form of question. Qu'est-ce que? They've used mainly the informal tu veux form up until now. Wonder why they changed, just for some variety. And actually, we do use this form a hell of a lot as well.
Je veux marcher un peu dehors.
Dehors, I like that. I like that. They didn't choose à l'extérieur. They used dehors, which is quite hard for us to say. Dehors, dehors, which is a pronoun. So it's suggesting that it's outside of where they are. Dehors.
Je veux voir les vaches.
Je veux voir les vaches. Do you want to go swim?
La plage n'est pas loin.
La plage n'est pas loin. Everyone's tired. Everyone in France is very tired. But it's kind of accurate. That's why they have so many words for tired. Nous pouvons voir ça demain. Again, they're using nous a lot, which is one thing I just don't agree with. I mean, people should be made aware that nous means we and what all the subject pronouns mean. But as I say in one of my other videos, my first video on this, and is a piece of advice which many French teachers who teach modern French will tell you, is that no one uses nous on a day-to-day basis. And I think even beginners should be taught that. See, no two friends would say nous pouvons faire ça demain. They would say on peut faire ça demain. On peut faire ça demain. It's so common. It's not even slang, you know. I think people should get that into their rhythm as soon as possible.
Nous allons nager.
There's that nous again. Well, they're not going to change now. Nous allons nager. Nager obviously means to swim, but the French do tend to use se baigner, to bathe oneself, which, you know, basically be in the water. Here, nager specifically means to swim. But I think this general usage of just chilling in the water, probably se baigner fits better. But I'm open to be corrected on that by a Frenchie.
Et après, au lit.
Au lit! It sounds very posh if you literally translate it to English. And after, to the bed! To the bed! Au lit. Just means, yeah, to the bed. They say bed. I like the questions. They're nice. They're nice and challenging. They're not just like translate this sentence all the time. Okay, so I didn't really see a marked difference there from set 1. So I'm going to do one more, and I'm going to do the one. Oh no, that was that was pretty much the end of the story. So there wasn't a marked difference in difficulty there. So I'm wondering if they do vary throughout the sets. But anyway, all right, let's do one just near the beginning. Just to test. C'est qui? Yes, change de téléphone. Whenever you change from something to something else in French, you always say change de téléphone. Changer de.
Allô?
Allô?
Bonjour, Louis.
Oh, sounds creepy. Sounds sinister.
C'est qui?
Une amie. J'ai besoin de toi.
Okay, what am I getting into?
Je ne vous connais pas.
Je ne vous connais pas. Yeah, nice.
Et moi, je te connais.
Okay, so I see a difference in difficulty here finally. So they're using more of these object pronouns. You're not saying, you know, they're not using the third person all the time to say je ne connais pas Louis, for example. They're deliberately using more of these vous and te to replace you and you. So je ne vous connais pas. It gets people used to the fact that they put the pronouns in a different place to in English. That's good. It's subtle, but it's important.
Très bien.
But I know you very well. Where is this going? Oh, she's coming into your office.
Non, je vais appeler la police.
Whoa, he's scared. Louis says he's going to call the police.
Louis, c'est ta chef.
Okay. I'm glad Duolingo don't go too far down a rabbit hole into that. It is supposed to be fun after all. They always turn it into a joke. So far they've done that. Louis' friend from college, Louis' mother, or Louis' boss, chef. Yes, it's not someone who cooks dinner. Well, it can be, but it's your boss, your chief. Da-da. Okay, so let's stop there. Now I'm going to go into a review of what I think of Duolingo Stories and whether I would recommend it for you guys, the French learners at an earlier stage than me. Allez, c'est parti. So just to summarise, I love the fact that they use natural voices for most of the conversations that they were having in the stories feature. I think that really, really helps you get a better idea of the intonation and how to use the words. The dialogues are good and quite imaginative without being silly and unrealistic for the most part, which is a change from the main Duolingo app and one of the reasons why I stopped using Duolingo, because things just weren't really realistic and relevant, and I thought, why am I learning this? But they do have one or two exceptions where there was one dialogue where the two new people were getting to know each other, and then suddenly from nowhere the guy throws in, do you have a pet? Tu as un animal de compagnie? I was like, not very realistic, wouldn't really happen, but I'll allow them that. There is about two people learning about each other for the first time, so you can sort of ask anything in those situations. There was one funny dialogue about going to get food, and the first time in stories that you're introduced to French people talking about getting bread, they suggest going to the supermarket. Now, maybe I'm nitpicking here, but come on, this is the country of bread. French people go to boulangerie. Of course people buy bread in the supermarket as well, but I would have liked to have seen them just throw in tu vas à la boulangerie rather than tu vas au supermarché for that. But maybe I'm nitpicking. Duolingo Stories, for the most part, have done a really good job at keeping things realistic. And like I've just said already, that is something that I missed in the original app. However, they did have one dialogue where a son is introducing his wife to his mum. Those two have never met before, and yet the wife comes in and says tu to the mum. And the mum is already kind of like taken aback that her son is married, despite not even knowing he was with anyone. So I really think it's more realistic to use vous in this situation. Sure, there's some people who would be brave enough to say tu, but I think that's going a bit too deep into the improbable of realistic situations here. I think they should have stuck with vous there. However, again, I'll let it slide because I like how realistic and natural the conversation seemed. Some of their exercises were really innovative. I liked that. They were focused on listening, and they would give two or three options of what the person said, which could both have been said in that context. So it's not as easy as just picking the one which makes sense in the context. You have actually got to have good listening skills to be sure about what was said. For example, a girl gets in a taxi, the driver says, vous allez où? Or on va où, or nous allons où, I can't quite remember. And she said, à l'aéroport, s'il vous plaît. À l'aéroport, s'il vous plaît. And one of the options was aller au port. Aller au port, which I suppose could be said, and it's quite close enough. We're talking about going somewhere, but it was à l'aéroport. So that was quite good. I liked how they used that. That was very good. Now, a big gripe I have with Duolingo Stories, I've got to say, is that they did use nous instead of on in these realistic everyday conversations, which I'm sorry, makes it unrealistic, because as I've said many times on the channel before, the French don't use nous for we in everyday life. Even if it's formal, typically they will use on for we, and I don't think learners are made aware of this early enough. So we tend to go, no, I'm going to trust what I've been taught in class, or in this case on Duolingo. And it takes them a while to convert over to using on. I feel like courses and things like Duolingo, which have a huge influence on the language learning world, should put more focus on saying to people, this is how they speak. It's a little thing, but it's really, really huge. And if you want to become a natural French speaker, you're going to use on. So overall, I think Duolingo Stories is a huge improvement over the main Duolingo app. It's realistic. The natural voices for the most part, there were a couple of robotic voices, but the natural voices for the most part are really fantastic and they flow like natural conversations. I only did set 1 and started set 2, so I'm guessing stuff got a lot harder, but I'm really happy with what I got to so far. So thank you to those of you who suggested I try out Duolingo Stories. I'm really happy I did, and I think I would be happy to go back as a learner and use it myself now, if I wasn't already living in the country and or had reached the level that I have. So I would still say to people that you should take control over your learning and you choose exactly what language, i.e. grammar, vocabulary, and the theme of the language you're going to learn by setting your own goals. But for a lot of us, that's a bit of a step too far. We want something to take the burden off that. So I would say if you're not quite ready yet to take control completely over your process, use Duolingo Stories, why not? And even if you are doing goal setting, smart goal setting is my favorite technique, use this as a supplementary activity for your listening and to tweak your knowledge on the grammar. Why not? I think it's good. It gets a thumbs up from me. So yes, thanks again to those of you who suggested I try it. I'm really happy I did. And now for those of you who are interested in learning more everyday French, I've made a video that I wish I had when I was still learning the language a couple of years ago on everyday French, 12 nuggets of everyday French in actual fact that I didn't learn until I got to France. To get your hands on that, or rather your eyes, I've got to start making that joke. Head over to my website via the link down in the description below and you'll be speaking more natural everyday French in no time. If you enjoyed this video, tout le monde, don't forget to go down below and click on that thumbs up button down below. It really helps me out. Click on my face in this circle over here if you want to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future videos. Click over here to check out my initial review on Duolingo, which divided so much opinion, and click down here for another video that YouTube recommends you watch. Merci beaucoup d'avoir regardé. À la prochaine. Ciao.